This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
The ones that I do know, they want to stay. They want to stay in hospitality, and we're basically turning them away to other industries, legal or illegal.
We started the week on dirty linen, covering the rule changes around international students and their working rights. We are ending the week talking about the same topic from a different perspective. We started the week with an international student who gave us a really insightful perspective on life with that status and with the uncertainties that go with it. We are finishing the week in Sydney with Cameron Ellis, who's a Senior Operations Manager for AusVenueCo, with rosters totalling more than 250 staff. Cam, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your work and your role with the pubs in Sydney.
Yeah, so basically I'm an area manager, but I support the venue managers coming from that particular role myself. Excuse me. So I basically run those venues in conjunction with the venue managers, all of their staff, their rostering needs, their requirements, compliance-wise, financially, oversee all of that costs and just making sure that they're all keeping their noses clean.
Which I'm sure they are. It sounds like a very busy role. Which part of Sydney are you based and what venues do you oversee?
So Sydney CBD mainly. So Bungalow 8 is one of the bigger ones. And then I also have the Winery, Kingsley Steakhouse, Little Pearl, the Brewdog and South Everleigh as well.
Oh, right. So a real diversity of venues. And I guess the group has sort of classic pubs, but also so many different venues as well. So, certainly sounds like a role that would keep you very busy. Our focus today is international students. Can you tell us about the role that they play in the venues?
They're integral. Yeah. So we use them in all facets of the business. There's, from back of house to front of house, operations. Probably 30 to 40% of our workforce is in the student visa program or wanting to be in the student visa program, coming off a working holiday visa. We've got a large history of, having these guys come through. And then during COVID, when there were the ones that stayed here, they're the ones who became, full-time managers and staff on more than the regular hours, who are integral to our business.
That is amazing that it's like 30 to 40%. I knew they'd be important. I did not know that it would be that proportion. That's really, really full on. So, as a lot of people know, during 2020, when there were lockdowns, international students weren't able to access JobKeeper. So if businesses were able to give them hours, they often did, because that was the only way that they could get by. Their working restrictions were also eased. So it used to be that students were allowed to work 40 hours a fortnight. Those limits were removed. But what's happening on 1st of July is limits are being reinstated. It's 48 hours instead of 40 hours a fortnight, but it is still, well, you tell me, Cam, what difference is that going to make to them and to your businesses?
Look, it comes as a bit of a shock that it wasn't reviewed, not given the fact that I don't think anyone's considered the fact that they've made lives for themselves here. The ones that stuck it out, that with money from home, that didn't have JobKeeper, are now renewing their student courses and fulfilling their visas, but have also taken up full-time work either in conjunction with their studies or outside of their studies. It just means hundreds and hundreds of hours per week of labour that I won't be able to fill, not at the drop of a hat, and I don't think in the way that we are recruiting and our ability to recruit in Sydney especially, I don't think we're going to be able to fill it.
Yeah, it's pretty worrying. I mean, what are you hearing from some of these workers about the difference it's going to make to them financially, just in terms of being able to support themselves in an expensive place like Sydney?
Well, Sydney is the most expensive place in Australia, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm from here. I know, but to hear it from them, it's pretty eye-watering stuff. That there's no way you can support yourself off what the extra 4 hours they're going to give them per week in the new rollout of this program. 24 hours a week won't cover rent for a lot of these guys, let alone living costs. And I know that they were supposed to. The government wants them to come here with money and not expect to be able to work, but that's horseshit. It's really, for our industry, the people that want to work and study and maybe become professionals in our industry, it actually is just a massive slap in the face. They're not going to be able to do that, not in Sydney, and not working in the CBD. Yeah,
I mean, it is interesting. I mean, you say it's horse shit. I got to agree, because on the one hand, the government allows there to be, hundreds of thousands of education places, and it's simply not realistic to think that all of those places are going to be filled by students who are, borrowing from the bank of mum and dad. These are people in all kinds of family and financial circumstances, aren't they?
Yeah, correct. And I can tell you right now that 80% of them will go out and either find cash in hand work or illegal work over, to be able to support themselves if the government sticks to these rules. We can't stop that. We run an ethical, moral and legal business where basically we won't allow them to work over 24 hours, but then some of them will risk their visas by going to another company saying they don't have a job, and there's no checks done. They'll risk their status permanently in the country by just being able to by working and by trying to earn money in other companies. And then there's the whole side of the cash in hand work. So the mum and pop cafes might be going might be really excited about the new changes, because people will be falling out of my industry fully trained and have been paid to fulfill their roles for a long time, and then having to drop 20 hours a week and work for the cafe on the corner that might pay them cash in hand, again jeopardizing their future in the country.
I hadn't really thought of it in terms of the investment that you've made with training with these people. That they're actually a pretty good prospect for businesses that are operating outside of the law or on the fringes there. What other risks do you think there are for people who put themselves into the cash economy in that way?
Well, many of the ones we have do either see or plan a future in Australia, whether it be later on or down the track or now, and they're risking their ability to stay in the country. They will get booted if they get caught, and that was the fear that they all went through before all of the COVID lockdowns and changes to rules happened, and it's definitely going to be the fear now, especially once they've settled up, signed leases, and now having to, consider having to drop 20 hours a week.
Yeah. And so from your point of view, with these 5 big, busy venues, you've been relying on these hours. What will the impact be on these venues?
Straight off the bat, we have to recruit. Basically, not knowing if anything's going to change, and I doubt it will. I was at a liquor accord meeting last night where they said it wouldn't, where members for the AHA and areas of our industry kind of spoke, and they were telling everyone to plan for it, which we'd already started, but we will have to recruit. There's full-time managers, there's sous chefs, there's people that are required to work, up to 40, 42 hours a week, and not being able to fulfill their roles. So across my patch, I think that's why I was recommended to do this course. Yeah, it's got to be about 40 people, totaling hundreds and hundreds of hours. So we just have to recruit basically.
And recruiting's one thing, but recruiting skilled workers is another. Like, what is the landscape like at the moment in terms of hiring the people that you need?
Well, we haven't been hiring skilled hospitality professionals for a long time. In general, we like to hire on attitude and prospects and people that want to consider themselves as hospitality professionals in the future. So we hire, we spend the money, we train and develop, and we do really well at that in my company especially. So it's not going to be easy to find the people like for like that replace the ones that we've trained or, developed over time.
It also must be annoying for people like a sous chef or a venue manager. I mean, these are senior roles, and they probably don't want to piece together a bit of work here, a bit of work there. These are people that are taking their careers quite seriously.
Correct, yeah, and I can't speak for them and what they're studying, but the ones that I do know, they want to stay. They want to stay in hospitality, and we're basically turning them away to other industries, legal or illegal, potentially. So, it's going to be a tough time for them, that's for sure.
Cam, let's speak a bit more generally about your role and, the good things perhaps about it as well as the frustrating things. Tell us a bit about yourself and what took you into this work.
Okay. I've been in the industry for 22 years. Fell into it through my football coach, who was the licensee of the Old Oxford Tavern. So during high school, I was filling the jelly wrestling pool with hydroponics jelly and getting the girls ready and hosting jelly wrestling competitions, and that got me into bars and selling got me into stocking the kegs. And then once I turned 18, I was ready to make drinks and serve, and I flourished the fact that hospitality, what you can do, what you can bring out in people, the camaraderie and the satisfaction you get from putting on a good show and helping people. So I went through that and lived in London, New York, opened bars in Melbourne. Turned it into a pretty good career. Ended up with AusVenueCo and was managing the Bungalow 8 venue, which I still manage and oversee, and moved up to senior operations from there.
Wow. I honestly don't think I've had anyone on this podcast before who started off with jelly wrestling.
No, I know a few. So you can get
well, I guess you'd be the guy. You'd be the guy with those connections.
Yeah, well, definitely. They've all got different stories, but all of the ones I know have stayed in hospitality. So maybe there's something there.
It must be a really good place to start. What sort of changes have you seen over those 2 decades, Cam, just in terms of, the professionalisation of the industry and the possibility for people to see it as a really viable career?
Well, I guess it started as the easiest possible thing. It was the coolest job to have, going from school to, fill up the jelly pool and then, serving my friends at some of the best bars. And I opened Ivy and Merivale and have worked some really nice places where people wanted to go and people wanted to work in my industry. And it's turned into being one of the hardest, if not the most hard part of what we do is recruiting people to be in our industry. So it turned into an easy holding them back at the door to going out and searching and having to talk to agencies and recruitment agencies and going overseas, for example, to recruit chefs from other countries. It's it's completely changed. It was going that way before COVID. I think there's a lot more ways to make money that are not, well, probably as cool these days. And I don't, I'm 40, so I don't really know. But there's other ways to make money, and working after midnight is not one of them. And it's not seen as a really viable long-term profession. So I think, maybe there's a few parents out there that, you could possibly speak to later on and find out why that it's not encouraged, for an 18-year-old to 22-year-old to support themselves through university. It's just not needed anymore. Not in Sydney anyway. Yeah,
that's so interesting. I mean, working after midnight was always part of the deal. If you, especially, obviously in bars. I mean, why do you just think it's because there are other options, or do you think people I don't know, they just have more of a sense of work-life balance, or I mean, what do you think it is?
I really don't know, to be honest. It is hard work, but and we obviously can fill the rosters after midnight. So people who do it enjoy it, but I just think it's less cool. It's not something that you can't wait to work with your friends and have a drink and party after work, or at least have staffies. And there's a lot more rules these days compared to when I first started. They might have something to do with it, but I really just can't say. I think there's just more options, especially in digital media and other avenues that didn't exist when I was coming through the ranks, for unskilled and maybe someone who needed direction. Maybe they have more direction now, and it's just not towards hospitality.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad picture that you paint, especially because people still want to go out at night. But if you're going to go out, you need the people that are going to be there serving you.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we'll find them. It's not a completely sad picture, and I'm sorry to have to paint it that way. We will find the staff, and we generally do well from the staff we currently have, going out to their friends and them telling them how fun it is and how fun it can be, and profitable as well. The industry pays really well now. We've done well with the higher rates and standards and conditions of our workforce as well. So it is an actually really fun job. Finding staff isn't as easy as it used to be.
Yeah. And Cam, what is it that you love about what you do?
Building the people beneath me, seeing them grow in confidence. And grow more qualities and shoot through the ranks faster than I did, for example. Really just progressing the people beneath you and inspiring hospitality as a career, to the ones beneath them even.
Oh, well, I wish you all the best with this challenging time. It would be good to think that these rules might be looked at again, but it seems like in the meantime you'll be back on the recruiting front line, and I hope you have some great people knocking on the door.
No, I'm sure we will, and we'll be fine. And definitely, it's not going to affect the customers coming out to us. There's definitely a market there. We just need to reshift our focus as to how we staff our teams. So all good.
Well, thanks so much, Cam. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Thanks, Dani. Appreciate it.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta @dirtylinen podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.